Meeple Talk!
Hello, everyone! We're Meeple Talk. I'm Adam.
And I'm Stephanie. And this time we've got Terra Mystica. Now, okay, for those of you who have been gaming a long time, you might look at this and say, wait a minute, this is not a new game. Well, sometimes we're going to do what we call our New to Me series. So sometimes we're just going to review games that have been published a while back. This one is a 2012 game, but we've been eyeing it, just kind of wanted to give it a go. We decided, hey, why not do it this week?
So right. Yes, and you'll see that this is a really,
giant,
big, tall, giant game. There's it's a heavy strategy game. So, we played some we liked, some we didn't really like. We wanted to try this one out. We've heard a lot of good things about it. And, I mean, look at it. Yeah, so there's a lot of pieces. There's all kinds of wooden pieces.
And it does take a while to do. It does take a while to play. So the estimate in the rules say about maybe 30 minutes per person that's playing. And it is one of those games that has a limit on it, a round limit, total of 6. So this is one where you've really got to decide and use your strategy to, really it's a deciding to build when and how and with resources you're going to with what resource you're going to, collect and acquire along the way. So it's really one of those, what they call the engine building games, where you have to try to build as much momentum as possible in a given round. So,
Yes, lots of heavy strategy.
Yes.
So, we're going to tell you a little bit about the game. And come right back. Okay, we'll start with one of the player boards. Every player has their own unique race. And on the board, we have this different pools of power that you can use throughout the game. We have the wheel of the various different terrains, including your home terrain. Here we show the different things that each player will get at the beginning of the game. This indicates the different shovels that you need to terraform from one terrain to another. This indicates your shipping ability. Every player has some unique bonus that is indicated in this corner. And finally, these are all the different buildings that you can build, right starting from the dwellings, going right up to the stronghold, and so on. And then you've got your reserve of priests that you'll earn when you build any of the temples, and a few bridges here that you can bridge from one land to another. By the way, this tile indicates all of the different actions that you can use throughout the game. And so now we'll move over to the components over here. These here are the worker cubes that you'll be getting throughout the game, and these are the coins you can use, basically money. And these are action tokens that you'll use to indicate actions that you've taken throughout the game. Now we move to closer to the board here. We see all the different kinds of terrains that exist in the game, and you can terraform from one to the other using your color wheel. This indicates these are town tiles that you can earn if you can build a town with your buildings. And now we'll move to the board itself. You see there are a lot of different hexes. Those are all of the land tiles, and there's some rivers flowing through. And here you see some dwellings. This would be at the beginning of the game. These would be placed before any turn starts. At the bottom here, we have power actions that any of the players can take throughout the game. On the, left side here, we have 6 different tiles indicating the 6 rounds in the game. The game only has 6 rounds. In each round, one of these tiles would be in play. Further up, we see these endgame scoring conditions here, where you can score victory points on the cult tracks, which I'll show in a moment, and for the most continuous buildings, I guess you could say. And finally, there's a victory point track going around. That's how players will score their victory points. And then we're going to move over to the cult track here. There's 4 different elements, and players all start with their tokens in the beginning, and they'll score their points on the cult track here. Below that, you'll see these scroll tiles, bonus tiles. Each player will take one of these during every round of the game, and they get certain bonuses for that. Above the cultic track, we see the cult favors, and that also helps you to score on the cult track. And those are all the components in the game. Stephanie will explain how the game works.
Woohoo! Okay, so if we go back to the main board, the idea is that you want to build as much as you can and as fast as you can, but there are a couple of rules that guide it. One is that any new structure that you're going to build has to be adjacent to a structure that's already yours on the board. And the land type, the geology there, has to match what your home terrain is going to be. Obviously, they're different. So this is where, if we look, just temporarily, if we go back to the player board, everyone's got a terrain wheel. And depending on the, I guess, different type of terrain that is different from your home one, will tell you or indicate to you the number of spades that you need to use and earn in order to change your terrain to your home base. Once you've got it to your base color, then you can develop a new structure. Now, there are a couple other things that are going to guide you when you're going to be building. And some of it, when you decide the when and where and how, well, that's dictated by, some of it is dictated by the structures themselves. There's a certain flow order on the type of structures, how you progress from one type to another. You always start with your dwellings at first, and every time you build, you're going to be revealing new sources of income, whether they are workers. Also, if you upgrade to some other buildings, you might see on this card here that you also, in the income round, may be able to gain coin and power. Also, when you get high enough in the structure values, you've got these ones here that if I just show you briefly, everyone in this particular area not only can get bonuses into when it comes to how you build your towns, you also get these certain favor tiles that Adam had mentioned earlier. Also, every race themselves may have a unique ability when they reveal this particular one in the income phase that they'll be able to take advantage of. Some of the other things that are going to guide you when you're building, if we go back to the main board, as Adam says, every round there's going to be a random set of tiles put out for the tile markers, and you're going to, if you happen to build a particular structure indicated for that particular round, you're going to get some extra victory points. Also, you may get some bonuses as well, depending on how high you had progressed in the actual cult track. And also, end of game round 2, as Adam had mentioned earlier, you are going to get not only bonuses for the size of your village, because if you reach a certain size, you're going to then be able to found a town. That is going to earn you victory points as well as some other bonuses. But also, the sprawl, almost like the longest path, we call it the longest path for structures, that is going to get you points, depending if you're first, second, or third in length. Same thing with the cult track, first, second, and third, earns you some extra bonuses based on the color and placement they are in. And as you can tell, overall, when you found towns, when you have the longest sprawl, when you have certain buildings revealed, you're going to be earning victory points the entire time throughout the game, whether they're instant or at the end. And as you can see from the victory points track, by the time it all is said and done, the highest victory points and coins, which then convert to victory points, that is going to determine the winner. Now, how an actual turn goes. So I mentioned what you can do, but how you go about doing it, that's the second part. So with the resources that we have, the type of income that we get, we're going to decide what it is we want to accomplish in that particular round. And everyone's going to go around taking turns. And they're going to try to take as many actions as they possibly can each round. We're all going to go, and in the order, you can choose what order that you take certain actions, and you're going to go until you can no longer accomplish anything with the resources that you have. You then finally pass. Here, this is where you're going to pick up one of these tokens, because this will help you in the next round, in your income phase. And once everyone takes as many possible actions that they can and pass, that's going to end the round.
So that's a basic overview of the game. Mm-hmm. We can't go into all the rules because there are a lot of rules in this game. It's a big one, so, yeah. Yes. But now we get into opinions, and I really like this game. I'll just say I found that even though it was a heavy strategy game, there's definitely a lot of thinking. A lot of players will take a long time to figure out what they're going to do because there's like a million things you can do. Like there's 8 different actions. And when you've got some buildings on the board, you might say, oh, I could maybe, build these buildings into a town, or maybe I could upgrade some of these and get some bonuses, or maybe I could, advance my shipping so that I can build buildings or maybe build bridges across. And there's just so many different choices that you can make that it really is a deep strategy game. And also I'll say, though, that if you don't plan carefully and, in the beginning of the game, you may really ruin it for yourself later in the game. That's what I would define as a heavy strategy game, where if you screw up in the beginning, you can't catch up.
I was just going to say, as a follow-up point to that, make sure when you're choosing your races, because they do have special abilities, but really take the time to examine your cards as well, because you might find that in some of the revealed, we may have some common functions that on every base card you have. Every time you build a dwelling, you're going to get a worker. That's not always the case, right? Sometimes the rewards that are revealed are going to change depending on how many of those buildings you've looked at. And if you didn't take a chance to really examine that card, you could realize, oh, I did all this work, and the reward on it is not what I was expecting. So really take the time to do that.
Yeah, that will totally bite you. Yeah, because every race is unique, and then so you have to look at what their strengths and their weaknesses are and kind of play to those, and you really have to in this game, because if you don't, then you're at a big disadvantage.
And when it comes to a strategy game, I like that because not only are your common goals, like, so for example, the round trackers, everyone knows what's coming up and they can try to plan for that. I like the way in this game limits you. There are other games that sometimes have limited rounds or turns that seem a little kind of frustrating, that you can't really maybe achieve as much, or sometimes you feel thwarted too often than really getting something going. This one allows you to play out your plan. And so whether it's based on, what your unique race can do, whether it's the round orders or just whatever overall goals are, there's so many avenues you can take to build points. And sometimes the difference between winning and losing could have been based on the longest stretch of your structures. Sometimes it is really based on the track or some other advantages that you've had. So really being choosy about your turn order can really, really pay off. But I think the balance of the rewarding of the victory points compared to your efforts is really well balanced in this game. I like how they did this one.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree, and I find that there are so many, like Steph was mentioning, there's so many different things that you can do that you never feel boxed in. The only time I would say that you really might feel frustrated is if you didn't plan well, and then you can go back a couple steps and say, well, if I should have done this, and because I didn't do this, maybe I didn't try to get more workers on that particular turn, and now I don't have any workers, and now I can't do anything for a couple rounds. So the game really, it doesn't punish you with randomness. It's all laid out in front of you. And I really like that. I like the fact that it has deep strategy, but the deep strategy is in front of everyone, easy to see, and all of your options are in front of you, and you always can do something. You may feel frustrated because, your power is all locked up in one pool, but you can still get coins. You can get coins from the scrolls. There's some actions you can take if you do have power, and because there's 3 different currencies in the game, right? And you use them in combination. You have the workers, and you have the coins, and then you have your power. Yeah. So, but this is a really well put together game. Like, it's very well balanced. It's definitely the best heavy game that I've played. Yes. Period. So, yeah.
And really, because I think the level of difficulty comes from the scarcity of the resources at hand. You are going to be restricted. So that's what you got to keep in mind. You are going to be limited. And so, but the decisions you make are in your control. And that's the part that I really think has going for it. So I think you may look at the board, and whether it's the art designs, or whether it's the meeples, or whether it's the other components, you may think, oh yes, this reminds me of this game, or it borrows from that. Yes, there's a lot of sense of familiarity with the design of this game, but it's not a complicated mess. It's designed and worked. Yeah, it really works really well.
And you know what? One thing that I really like, and it's a mechanism that's in Imperial Settlers as well, is the idea that if you put combinations of your actions together well, you can keep playing action after action after action.
Momentum builds nicely.
Yeah, and they borrowed that. I assume they did, because Imperial Settlers came out later. But that's a really interesting mechanism, because then you really feel rewarded just in one turn for being able to do a lot of different things. I really believe that a game like this is successful if even though you lose, you feel like you accomplished a lot in these so-called mini games.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of little mini games, building a town is like a mini game, and maybe getting your temples out is a mini game, and getting high on the cult scoring track is a mini game. And if you feel like you can do those things, then the game's very satisfying, no matter how well or how badly you do. So, I mean, I think when
I would have to
my
agree
first
with
game,
that.
I played the mermaids, and the mermaids have the ability to
they
build.
swim like crazy.
Yeah, they can build across the rivers, and I built a series of buildings across 2 rivers, and even though I didn't win, it was very satisfying. It was fun.
Exactly.
So,
and it's kind of neat because you feel like you're experimenting all the time, and I like I like the feeling that gives you.
Yeah.
So I would say overall, yes, if you still got copies in your local store available, absolutely give it a try. For those who've had it for a while, been played it for a while, absolutely. We want to hear your comments and see what you think as well, too. But I'm giving it a thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm giving it, if I had 3 thumbs, I would.
You give it a third.
I only have 2.
Excellent.
So, thanks for watching, and check out our next review. See you later.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.